Well, hello everyone. It's time to grab your snacks and get comfy because it's round 4 of 9 of the Mercedes AMG eRacing competition season 3. And today we head to a very interesting track indeed, the shortest on our calendar. But before we delve into the details, it's time to introduce ourselves. My name is James Kirk, and alongside me, as always, is Mr. Robert Riesenmuller. And Rob, today we head to the Norris Ring, one of the deadliest tracks on the calendar, some would say. It's also the shortest, so not much to remember, but at the same time, plenty to remember.
Hello everyone, hello James. Yes, it's going to be the closest race of the season, the Norris Ring, a true classic, located in Nürnberg in Germany, the only street circuit we have on the calendar, and the shortest circuit by far, and we will see the closest times in the qualifying session, that's for sure.
Yeah, let's take a look at the calendar actually in general. Of course, heading to the Norris Ring today. 1995 cars, by the way, if you haven't been tuning in recently, or for the last 3 rounds now. We're taking a tour through history, and so today we're using the 1995 Mercedes C-Class. Before that it was the Mercedes Evo 2, and today's actually going to be the last time that we used the 1995 car around this short track, of which it's round 4 of 9, Rob, of course. And we're going to be heading into 2003 when we head to Zandvoort. It's crazy to think that we're almost halfway through this calendar already. But the Norris Ring providing us with one of the more interesting challenges, as you say, the only street circuit on the calendar. And it also happens to be one of the tightest street circuits in the world.
Yeah, the walls are very, very close here. And as you mentioned, we're driving with the C-Class from 1995. And from the next round on, we'll move a little bit into the future. Still the past for us, of course, with the CLK from 2003. Bernd Schneider won both championships, both in 95 and in 2003. So it will be interesting how the drivers will adapt to the new car once we head to the next round in Zandvoort, for which the qualifier is already open, by the way.
And so if you're interested in taking your claim to join us on the eRacing broadcasts, then have a go. You never know what might happen. And actually, speaking of Schneider, Rob, if I remember correctly, didn't he win race 2 in these cars in 1995?
Yes, he actually did. He won the second race. It was a huge accident back in 95 when they raced here by Jan Magnussen, who drove one of the dark brown, almost black looking Mercedes, like the one that we see here. Crashed in the first corner, actually broke his leg. Jan Magnussen, of course, the father of Kevin Magnussen, who's driving in Formula 1 this year. So history always catches us back up again.
Yeah, for the driver in that particular car, Danny Sharanku, I certainly hope that he's not involved in a big accident. We wouldn't want history to repeat itself in that way, but actually let's take a little look at them, at the drivers who are going to be staking their claim to try and take win. It's been such an open championship so far, Rob. There's been 3 race winners, of which we've got 2 of them with us here today. Of course, we've got championship leader Julian Kunze there in the number 18. We've got one of the surprise packages of the season, Andika Rama Maulana, in the number 2, the Indonesian, with a real breakthrough campaign. Hardly any of us had heard of him before, and yet here he was. But 2 names on this list are not going to be with us today, and one of those is indeed the last race winner. In fact, the most recent race winner from when we went racing last time in the Hungaroring. Tim Heinemann, the Season 1 and Season 2 e-racing competition champion, and his good friend Wilhelm Weyrich. They are both not participating today, so for a number of the drivers, that's going to be 2 big names that they can check off the list in regards to people who will have to try and beat to get points or a podium.
Yes, and Heinemann and Weyrich are both testing for the VLN, for the German Endurance Championship, on the Nürburgring, so they are testing a real race car. And I guess this really shows how how close it is these days, from sim racing to real racing, that you can really find your way into a real race car with your successes in sim racing. And Tim Heinemann, a little bit of a controversial figure, but very fast and 2-time champion of this competition, of course.
Yeah, there's an understatement and a half, isn't it? Actually, welcome back Emre Cihan. We haven't seen him in a while, the Turkish driver, and Jaka Suwoyo is the Indonesian teammate, stablemate of Andika Rama Maulana. So great to see more of an Asian influence on this championship, of which Let's head on over to the standings, Rob, and confirm just how far ahead Kunter is at this moment in time. 14 points between the Ronix Gaming driver and Rama Marlana and Sigi Rebenak, both on the same amount of points, 38. The reason why Rama Marlana is ahead is, of course, because he has taken a race win, whereas Rebenak has not. And that's an interesting point that we're going to touch on in a little bit, Rob. Of course, Andre Santos taking his first podium since 2016 last time out in Hungary. There was a great piece of work there. And of course, in terms of the live finale, you might remember from Season 2, there were 6 drivers who were able to get in from league play. That's been reduced to 5 with the introduction of a separate museum event, which is actually happening very soon, if I recall correctly. So Tim Heinemann there in that final P5 slot for the likes of Jack Keithley, for Georgia Sanatos, for Manuel Zangaffinen, who put on a great performance in Hungary, actually. They're looking to capitalise on Tim Heinemann not being here. They're also looking to capitalise on Tim Yarshall, who isn't here either. But let's focus a little bit on that museum event, Rob, which is happening in the first week of July, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so as James mentioned, there are only 5 spots this time that are given away in the online competition for the big final at the final DTM race at Hockenheim, where the 5 best drivers from this competition will compete against the 5 Mercedes AMG DTM drivers. So the real DTM drivers, the ones that are also out on the Norrisring this weekend. Guys like Edo Mortara, Gary Paffett and so on. And the 6th spot for one of the sim racers, that one is given away at the museum, at the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart, where there's a second live event, which will be hosted in exactly 2 weeks. And it will be really interesting who can secure his ticket early. A couple of good names here already confirmed to take part in the museum event. And hopefully we will stream it live as well.
I think isn't Heinemann one of them? I think I saw his name pop up a couple of times.
Yeah, the qualifier ends today, and last time I checked, he was leading the qualifier, so...
Yeah. So ultimately for Heinemann, league play might not even matter because he might be able to secure that spot in Stuttgart.
Yes. Just real quick for everyone who's watching for the first time, of course, what you're seeing here, these are not exactly real cars. This is a game, this is Race from Racing experience, but it's as close as it gets to real racing, I would say. You can download it for free, the link is in the description at YouTube, and the link to the Race from Facebook page, you can find it on when you're watching on Facebook. You can download it, you can join the competition for free, and you can just try it out with these historic Mercedes AMG DTM, and you can see how your times compare to the fastest drivers that are in this race here today.
Yeah, I mean, e-racing as just a genre is really gaining a lot of momentum and is gaining a lot of popularity. Is quite an interesting niche because it's being billed often as the most realistic esport you can find. A lot of esports in general, you're not going to be able to find much sense in them sometimes and compare it to real life. For these guys, so many of them using their own steering wheel peripherals, their own brake pedal and accelerator pedal peripherals. Some people choosing to go multi-screen, have 3 screens in front of them to really almost envision themselves in a cockpit of their own.
I mean, you could drive in VR.
Yeah, absolutely.
Racing is supporting it.
Yeah. And so it's, do not underestimate what these guys can do. It might seem unimpressive that, it's a game and so on, but so many real drivers nowadays. And you look at Heinemann and Weyrich with their pace, they're testing real-life cars right now. They're not there just for a token gesture. They're there on genuine pace. You've also look at like a superstar like Rudy Van Buren, for example, who's a Formula One simulator test driver now, of course. Big names are coming through, and all of these guys are able to compete with someone like Tim Heinemann. So it just goes to show how not only how close this field is, but how close this field is to real life, and that's the real beauty of e-racing in my eyes.
Yes, and in the museum we will have one VIP driver once again, one guy who comes from real racing. He's going to try out how he stacks up against the best of the best on the simulator. It will be Christian Vitores, former DTM driver, race winner in the GP2 series. So a guy who came very close to Formula 1. And we had some real drivers last year. I think Lucas Auer was the only one who even scored a point.
Yeah. And let's actually go on board with Toccacelli now. I noticed that we're starting the lap at the perfect time, Rob. Take us through a lap of the Norrisring.
Yeah, first corner, first gear, Grundlichkehre. Tocacelli touches the curb a little bit. We can see a lot of drivers avoiding the curb. And he's staying quite far away from the wall, because touching this wall, it's possible, but it will slow you down. Schöller S, the chicane here, very sideways on the entry. And now trying to get a lot of momentum coming out of the corner onto this banking here, very close to the wall once again. And there's only really one corner left, and we could count this as a corner, but here we go into the Dutzendteichkehre. Final corner on the circuit once again. Probably first gear, some drivers might take second. Tight apex, accelerating out, close to the wall here on the left side as well. And that's already it. Tocacelli just abandons this lap and goes back into the pit lane here. And Tocacelli, he was the fastest driver in the pre-qualifying session.
49.575, blink and you will miss it. And actually for Tocacelli, an interesting situation where he might be able to stake his claim at the top of things, because he's been quite an impressive rookie. But looking now at someone who is most certainly not a rookie in this championship, Kevin Siggy Rebernak, you've got him up with your favourites, Rob.
Yes.
We talked about this before the broadcast, to win this race. But from my perspective, even as a caster, I'm starting to lose a little faith, because it's so often the case where Kevin is the bridesmaid and not necessarily the bride herself. You know, he's consistently up there, scoring podium after podium. He's the man with the most podiums in the Mercedes AMG eRacing competition. When will he get that win, though, is the question that it's starting to transform into. Can he get that win? Early impressions, at least, are looking positive. He's the top of free practice.
Yes, and what we shouldn't forget is that last time at the Hungaroring, when we raced in the same cars, Kevin Siggy Rebernak was the only one who could keep the pace of Tim Heinemann, and Tim Heinemann is not here today.
Arguably, it was Kevin's own downfall in Hungary, because he got a slowdown penalty, which meant that it negated out a slowdown penalty for Tim Heinemann himself.
Yes, I don't think anyone will get a slowdown penalty here unless they try to wall ride, but it's very hard to cut the track.
The only slowdown penalty they'll be getting is if their car goes over a wall. And actually, it's worth saying as well in terms of damage and stuff. If I remember correctly, is no damage?
There is damage.
Oh, there is damage.
There is damage. We cannot let them get away without damage, of course, on the street circuit. Although it must be said, if you just clip the walls a little bit, then you will get away with it, because it was also kind of common back in 95 that these drivers were driving extremely aggressively, and these cars weren't quite as fragile. You can see how close he goes to the wall. Let's check the camera on the other side here. Once again, we will see how close he can go to the wall, and you can see the skid marks on the wall there already. So yeah, he wouldn't be the first one to touch the wall.
It's terrifying. I would not want to be one of those cameras. Just over a minute of free practice left, by the way. You can look at that timing tower, Rob. Everyone within 4/10. Now, okay, given that's kind of expected, given that this is a sub 50-second lap for a lot of the drivers. But even in that regard, only 4/10 between the two as they're practicing racing going into turn 2. I know it seems weird. The curve before that is turn 1. We'll glaze over that. I'm just looking at the official track map. But a lot of people in this early session already, they've got their pace. They've locked it down as Jack Keithley goes to the top by 9,000ths of a second. He's still pushing. But smart from a lot of these drivers to practice racing as well. They do not want to be one of the unlucky victims in a first corner pileup.
No, I think on this track it might be best to start first or to start last, because we've always seen big pileups, even in real racing on the circuit, because it's so tight. Oh, and there's a pileup already in the practice session. Julian Kunze, the championship leader, just goes into the car. I think it was then Gaffinen who spun there. As we're heading into the qualifying session now, and the qualifying session, 10-minute session, exactly 10 minutes. You cannot finish your lap after the timer hits 0, and then afterwards we have got a race coming up. 20 minutes, no formation lap, no warm-up, straight into the race, and that's all that counts. And look at all these cars. Oh, and someone's
pile up in the pit lane.
Oh, and I think everyone's lucky that you can escape here.
Yeah.
These drivers, they are very eager to get out.
Well, track position is so important, isn't it? And well, I was going to say actually you can escape on track, so you might be familiar with a few championships that say you've got to return back to the pits before you can escape. In here, given that we are 10 minutes and then you're done, you can't even complete your final lap if you're on one, we're allowing that you can indeed escape out to the pits. And look at this flurry of drivers. Nobody bothering to slow down to try and make their own space. They know that they've got a limited amount of attempts to just try and get a time on the board.
Andre Santos, he's the first car out on the track, and let's see how close he can go to the miracle time from Davide Toccacelli that he set very early on in the pre-qualifying as well, that no one could beat for several weeks.
So into and two then, the Grundy Kerr, a little bit spiky on exit there. Got to be oh so careful, especially since you're going into the lower gears and then into the famous Schuller S. We may very well see some overtaking into the Schuller S, maybe even on exit, but I think it's going to rely on excellent exits from turn 2. We're now heading down the back straight through another non-existent corner, but it is turn 6, and into the penultimate corner, turn 7. And before we head on to the back straight with this final curve, turn 8. And let's see what sort of pace Andre Santos is going to be setting at the Norris Ring. It is a 50.0, which is being easily beaten by provisional pole sitter Jack Keithley on 49.878, which is still 0.3 off Toccacelli's time, and Dika Rama Maulana instantly deposing him by half a tenth.
Time's a little bit slower than they could be, and I think we will see a lot of position changes here in this short qualifying session. Kevin Sigi-Rebanak, there he goes onto provisional pole, first one in the 49.7s.
Worth mentioning as well, actually, that there are only 3 men who have taken a pole position in the e-racing competition's history. Tim Heinemann, who's not here today, Jack Keithley, who is the all-time pole leader with 7, and of course Julian Kunze, who took his first ever pole position in the first round of the season, of course, at Hockenheimring. So for a lot of these drivers, like your Rebanaks, Maulanas, your Santoses, a chance to stake their claim in the pole position rankings, though we can't count out Jack Keithley. There's a reason why he's got the most pole positions in the competition's history.
Toccacelli into 7th, and a lot of drivers consider him to be one of the favorites here to actually take the pole position and even take the race win.
Ooh.
One of the
Zengaffinen.
It's Julian Zengaffinen.
Was it Julian Zengaffinen?
Julian in the yellow car, Manuel in the red one, so you can tell them apart, but you can't tell them apart on the timing screen. These two are brothers.
That is it's kind of a shame that we don't have a Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher-esque timing beam, because it would be just good to have a JZN or an MZN. For now, we'll try and deal with it as best we can, but a purple first sector for the Austro-Slovenian Kevin Sigi-Rebanak. A not so great middle sector, but actually in the grand things, that's not terrible for a lap. Kunze they're going up into P7, the laps continuing to tumble. And let's see whether Kevin Sigi-Rebanak is going to beat his own time. Manuel Zengaffinen up there into P4. Can he better his own time? Comes across the timing beam, and it is a better 49.676. That's only a tenth off Toccacelli's pre-qualifying time.
That's a very nice time. That's about the times that the drivers were hitting in the practice mode. So maybe it's going to be the first pole position for Kevin Sigi-Rebanak.
Maybe. And like you say, pole position is by far and away the best place to start in this particular round of the competition. As we're looking at Julian Kunze now. What does Julian Kunze have to do here, Rob? He's leading by 14 points. And even then, we know that people will want to win in season, to win in league play. That's, you know, it's the natural reaction of any competitor. They want to win the championship. But for Kunze, is it just a case of just scoring more consistent points? Because all he's really got to worry about is qualifying for that live final, which is the top 5 that qualify, not the top 1.
Yeah, but last time, in the last year, Kunze drove here and he didn't score any points. So this track might give him some nightmares, and he really wants to stay out of trouble. And currently in 10th position, that's right in the danger zone.
Well, considering that there's only 16 drivers here as well. Of course, if you're new here, the point structure goes down from 1st to 10th, so more than half the field in any race is going to be scoring points. But it's still difficult to get there after seeing how close the field is. Manuel Zengaffinen and actually Maulana going into P2 there. and Manuel Zengafinen unable to depose his brother. I tell you what, this is a proper renaissance for the Zengafinens. We saw them with a lot of potential in Season 2, Rob. Often unfulfilled, they were bit part point scorers. Here they are, looking to seriously challenge for podiums. Manuel for 2 weeks in a row.
Yes, great performance from them, and I think they will be kicking themselves. They weren't driving when the season started on the DTM 92 cars.
Yeah.
Oh, Maulana taking a very, very wide line here, trying to get a run for the next lap. As Michael Rechel goes into 4th position, wow.
I've been having a good chat with Michael actually over the last couple of weeks or so. He's been very excited to be here, very excited to score some points. I tell you what, he'll be delighted with P4 and splitting the Zengafinen brothers now as we quickly head towards 3.5 minutes left of this session. Let's see who's really struggling. Again, Jaroslav Honzik, Rob. A man who we know was ill last time out in the Hungaroring, which was kind of to blame for his poor performances, as Alex Dorniden there goes up into P3. That's a very nice result for the German if he can hold it there. And Xanatos going up into P6, the times continually tumbling. But for Jaroslav Honzik, a man who won a race, we forget, last season, the only man apart from Jack Keithley and Tim Heidemann to win a race. Oh, he's struggling this season, isn't he? He's looking so unlikely that he's actually going to qualify.
Of course, he needs to go into the top 5, and he's way back 10 at the moment. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's maybe the lack of preparation or maybe just these cars. I mean, they are older cars. They drive a little bit differently compared to the modern DTM cars. They have much less downforce, and they're also much more slidey, especially this car here. So, yeah.
Not pushing as hard as a lot of these other drivers. He's missing a lot of the walls. Maybe it's a street circuit to blame as well. He certainly didn't qualify last time out, although Andika Ramamalana, he's looking to qualify first. I noticed Jack Keithley going up into P5, but for Malana, he wants something a little bit better than that into the final corner, clipping the apex really nicely as well. The Indonesian, I don't really think we can call him a surprise package anymore. He has proven that he has the mettle to fight with the top brass in this championship. Can he take pole position away from Kevin Rebenak? No, he cannot. The final sector, which I thought was so good, Rob, it turned out it wasn't so great.
And I think Sigi Rebenak really did a very nice final sector. And it was the same in the pre-qualifying when Tocacelli did this lap. It was all in the final sector, where you can gain or lose a lot of time.
But look at where Tocacelli is now.
Yeah.
P9, I mean, that's a huge surprise for the pre-qualifying winner.
Tocacelli only 9th. Santos and Kunze 10th and 11th, the two Euronics Gaming drivers.
Yeah. Absolutely nowhere. Let's see if Kunze can improve on this lap. It looks like he went a little bit deep, actually, into turn 7 there. Heading flat through turn 8. And you can see how much this means to him. He's going close to the wall. Is this going to be an improvement for our championship leader? Yes, it is. That's a lot better. P5.
Nice time, and I think now he's in a much safer position as well for this race. Also looking here at Emre Cihan, he's a new driver, at least for this season. He was in a couple of races last season. 13th place, he was 2nd in pre-qualifying, so it must be quite disappointing for him. He's on a personal best, but it doesn't look like that he can really challenge for the top positions here in the qualifying session.
It's been a while since we've seen him another bit part point scorer. Last time out, only 30 seconds remaining, by the way, so you're going to be seeing Emre's last lap here. And actually, is he 2 seconds off there, I see?
No, I think he's just 2/10 off.
Oh, 2/10 off. It's strange from my angle, and actually he's going close to the line as well. Let's see whether the Turkish driver can improve. He does, but only up to P12.
I don't think that would be enough. Zengafinen's pulling into the pits, and I think it should be the pole position for this guy here, Kevin Sigi Rebenak, because no one is on a purple lap except Rebenak himself. And he's not going to be able to finish it in time, but it doesn't matter because it's the first pole position for Kevin Sigi Rebenak.
Well, that's a breakthrough pole position for the Austro-Slovenian Andika Rama-Maulana, remaining within that top brass. And what are the Zengafinens? I mean, for Julian Zengafinen to be P3 by the end of that session, a fantastic effort, but it's now straight into the race, Rob. No formation lap 20 minutes of racing to get underway. Kevin has taken his first pole position. I wonder if he can beat the critics and take his first win as well.
And he's been really waiting for a long time for his first victory. Been a strong performer ever since second last year in the final, but he hasn't won a single race.
1.5 seasons he's had to wait at this point now.
And he was second as well at the Norris Ring last year.
Yeah? But there's nothing to suggest that he can't do it. Except the form book, of course.
So, Revenak in silver, Maulana in black. And then
20.
all the yellow cars behind.
20 minutes of action await us, and we're off at the Norris Ring. And it's a pretty decent start, I think, from Kevin Revenak. He just needs to get through turn 1, or turn 2, I should say. Scathed, I'm sure every other driver's going to be wanting that, as well as they pile down into turn 2. And it looks like everyone's gone through okay. The yellow car's almost like a swarming beehive on the back of the front two. Revenak and Maulana getting away well. Jack Heath, he's had a great start. He was the one who was diving down the inside, and he was briefly up into P4. I think he is going to remain in P4 as the two, as they come together. Cars crashing against the wall, and who's that round?
It's Andre Santos.
It's Santos, Sheehan, and Honzik who've gone into a lot of trouble. Santos there, you can see broken his headlight. That's a real shame for the driver who took his first podium since 2016, and that's a lot of drivers who are
huge crash
at the back there. Who's involved there? Reichel, Buron, Honzik's up to P10. And Dornington in all of that's in P3, so I wonder whether it was one of the Zengaffinans who caused that massive issue at the end of lap 1, Rob, though. It's Revenak ahead of Maulana, Dornington, Keithley, Kunze, Tocacelli, Zengaffinan, and look at Sarangu here, who was in P9. I think he is going to go ahead into P8, though, because it's Julian Zengaffinan, isn't it? Yeah, so it must have been him who started that contact. He's now down to P9. Jaroslav Honzik in the top 10. I think he's going to be thanking his lucky stars he avoided all that.
And I think Michael Rechel was one of the other drivers that was involved in the first accident. His Volvo dropped all the way back to the rear of the field. It started pretty frantic here, must be said.
It looks like Zengaffinan's gotten back past Danny Sharanku up into P8, but for Kevin Revenak, he leads by 1.1 seconds from Andika Rama Maulana. Couldn't have had a better start for him, especially considering everything that happened behind. You look at the gap actually between let's see, going down to even Manuel Zengaffinan and the rest of the field, Kunze and the rest of the field is really starting to open up thanks to that incident in the final corner.
And that's what I meant when I said it can be dangerous if you start in the midfield. That's exactly where Rechel started, where Santos started, and where Kunze didn't start, and Kunze actually came out of it pretty well.
He's an experienced head though, isn't he? I'd imagine of anyone in the field to survive a big incident like that, it would be Julian Kunze, as they're still battling heavily away on the edge of the top 10. Of course, 8th, 9th and 10th the point scoring positions there. There is a bit of a gap between Jaroslav Honzik and his compatriot Buron, but between 1 and 4 points at this stage of the season, considering what's happened, every point counts, doesn't it? As Alex Dornington there, looking very keen on the back of Andika Rama Maulana, Keithley Tocacelli, and to a certain extent Julian Kunze in close pursuit though.
Alexander Dorniden only participated in one race this year, and he didn't have the best race at the Hungaroring because he also picked up a slow run penalty and dropped way back. But now it's looking much better here in 3rd position behind Maulana, who's strong once again.
He's not a rookie for this season by any means, and of course we've got to remember he is the Esports World Touring Car Championship champion, the only one in that particular series is history, as it would turn out. He did take part in Season 2. He was good, but not great. Didn't take a podium. Honestly, this is probably his best chance to pick up his first podium in the Merc.
And he's under big pressure by Jack Keithley behind, who also had a very underwhelming season so far.
Well, that's not entirely his fault, right? Because remember, he was in an incident in Race 1, and he was in an incident in Race 3. Neither of those particularly his fault.
Yeah, that's true, but still, he was the guy who won most of the races in the last season, so we kind of expected him to continue the trend. Keithley late on the brakes, Keithley driving the car with the red little stripes there on the windshield, the yellow car, so you can tell him and Dorniden apart. Dorniden, he's pulling away, coming out of the corner here.
I noticed Andre Santos actually moving up into P11, so I wonder whether he's going to be a threat. Actually, yes, he is going to. Well, we're looking back at Santos, aren't we? I think, is he a second behind Honzik?
We're on board with Santos now.
Yeah.
And that's Buron going up the inside. Ooh, bit of contact, but I think Buron had the corner there.
They prefer. And look at Shiranku, he's just lost the position to Yaroslav Honzik there, who's moved up into P9. Shiranku looking to score his first point of the season. And he is still there, but for Yaroslav Honzik, he gets a little bit loose on exit. I think he needs to get past Julian Zengaffinen at this point, because he needs as many points as he can get. I was going to say, though, it's important for Andre Santos, because he's currently P4 in the driver's standing, Robin, with Keithley in a good point-scoring position. It might bring him ever closer getting out of that top 5. I mean, Manuel Zengaffinen as well, scoring a good amount of points.
You can see Santos picked up some damage here. Let's see if it actually slows him down a little bit, but he should maybe be a little bit faster, or at least more experienced than the drivers surrounding him. Oh, 3 wide, that's not gonna work.
Just about. They just about got out and away with it, isn't he? We've got the better part of 15 minutes left of this race as well, Rob, and it shows no sign of letting up.
But the battles are especially in the midfield, because at the front of the field, Kevin Sigurrebanak has really gapped the field. We're looking back here from his rear wing, and we can see almost no one. Just there in the background, the car of Andika Rama Maulana. That's quite a big gap.
He just needs to control the pace at this point, doesn't he? And more crucially, don't hit the wall. Because actually, what's kind of helping him, Rob, I notice, is that Dorniden and Keithley, they're still keeping a very big watching brief, although I think Keithley, looking at this camera angle now, he's kind of broken away because he's got his stablemate, fellow ACR Zaxpeed driver, Davide Tocacelli, in close pursuit. And so, thankfully for Rebenak, Maulana is still being kept honest by Dorniden. I think he kind of hopes that it'll stay that way.
Tocacelli going past Keithley.
Moves up the inside, yes, and did Keithley just outbrake himself, or did he let himself through?
I think Keithley might have let him through. We'll see now when we look if Keithley is attacking once again into the first corner. But as some people mentioned before, Tocacelli has a very strong pace here on the circuit, and maybe Keithley is thinking that Tocacelli's chances are a little bit better of catching the guys ahead of him.
Perhaps. I mean, my one argument against that, though, Rob, is that as much as they are our teammates in the wider context of things, there's Rachel and Buron there going into combat, which has allowed Santos to break very much free from this battle. This is still an independent championship. Okay, each of these drivers will have their own affiliations. As Reichel there goes up the inside on the exit of the Schulleress. That'd be a great move if he can continue. So actually, he has made it stick. Great move on Lucas Buron. But going back to my point, these guys are battling for their own championships. There's no greater team championship to worry about. But shouldn't Keithley defend that harder?
Well, maybe Keithley, maybe he's not thinking about the championship. Maybe he's just thinking about this race. And you can see Tocacelli is closing in on Dorniden. And also behind Keithley, Kunze is getting a little bit bigger. So maybe Keithley really wants to take the battle to the cars ahead of him and not to the cars behind him. And so it might be a smarter move to let Tocacelli have a chance here. Let him have a go at Dorniden for the final podium place. And maybe if he attacks Dorniden, Keithley can sneak through.
Is it important to have a good pace setter then at the front of the train? Because Maulana seems to be gaining more carriages by the lap.
Yeah, Maulana is really picking up the pace here. I think he's closing in a little bit on Rebenak as well.
It's dragging everyone along. This train going all the way back to Manuel Zengaffinen in P7. The podium, at least, to me, seems very wide open. Rebenak looking to keep that gap at 2.5 seconds. And, well, we were talking about Danny Shiranku wanting to score his first point of the season. I think he's going to struggle because he's got a resurgent Andre Santos there looking to at least rescue 1 point from a disastrous event so far. He dives up the inside of the Schulleress, and Shiranku turns in a little early. He's able to save it on an exit, but that's a warning shot and a half for the Hungarian. Maybe a little bit over-exuberant.
Oh, and Tocacelli.
As Tocacelli having a go at Alex Dorniden.
I think he was a bit too late there as well. On the brakes. Just tried his luck against Dorniden.
very close battle indeed, and this is allowing Maulana to escape further and further up the road. Tocacelli braking very late into turn 2 there, almost pushing Dornington around the apex. This is a big moment for Tocacelli. He's not in the top 10, but these sorts of points are what could see you really factor into that top 5 battle. I know he's a rookie in this championship, but he's not a rookie in the grander scheme of things. He's a very experienced Italian driver, that is for sure. I know he wants his podium.
How close he is, and he goes for the inside this time. Can he make it stick? Dorneden gets the undercut there. Nice move by Dorneden. That's clever driving from both of the drivers.
Very clean, very nice. I was going to say, Rob, he's Italian. Of course he wants the position. Going into the slipstream now. I wonder whether he's going to go for a dive into turn 2 here. He's got a nice little bit of overspeed, and Dorneden there on the inside. It's a bit of a deceiving curve, that one, although Tocacelli still dives on the inside. And has he got him? You bet he has. That's a great late move from Tocacelli, despite the fact that the corner comes in on itself, meaning that it's a shorter run to the line for someone on the outside. Tocacelli didn't care, he just broke a little bit later, and he's taken the podium.
And that really bunched up Keithley, Kunze and Zangaffenen behind.
Now, what can Alex Dorneden do in response? Is he going to try up the inside of turn 7 here? No, he's going to be a little bit more considered. I reckon he's going to be looking at turn 2 as a potential response point. But like you say, Rob, now this is where Jack Keithley really starts to factor in, because he's going to be wanting to attack for that P4 himself. And actually, maybe this was the plan all along, like you were saying. Allow Tocacelli to attack. His first attack has been successful, but now he's got to defend.
Oh, Zangaffenen in the background, looking a little bit, and Dorneden also looking a little bit here on the exit. There's just no way through at the moment.
Shuttle rest, there's going to be no opportunity. Is Sharanku and Santos there, very close as well for the final point position. It's one that we don't want to take our eyes off, though, this battle for P3. And looking at the ball with the back of this train now, Manuel Zangaffenen, he's got a 5-second gap over his brother at this point.
Ooh, Kunze!
That's Kunze round! And did he just tap the back of Jack Keithley, I wonder? He's going to allow Zangaffenen through, he's going to allow Honzik through. Thankfully, there's another big gap before Danny Sharanku comes around the final corner. But, well, we haven't seen mistakes from Julian Kunze often this season, if at all.
And it's once again at the Norris ring.
Yeah. Thankfully, he's still in the point-scoring positions. Thankfully, Sharanku and Santos behind him are still battling. But actually, I'm
Santos into the back of Sharanku, and you can see Santos there waiting, actually. He doesn't want to take a position like this, of course.
I kind of half missed that because I was looking at the points table, because actually, if points remain as they are, Rob, Kevin Sigi-Rebenak takes the lead of the championship.
And Rebenak has been absolutely dominant in this race. I think Tocacelli and Dorneden, they've been doing a little favor to Rebenak and Maulana at the front of the field. But yeah, Kevin Sigi-Rebenak just cruising away at the front.
3.2 seconds clear now, and with 7 minutes to go, it is looking very good indeed for the Austro-Slovenian, though let's not count our chickens, because inevitably the egg may very well hatch into something that's not quite expected. Davide Tocacelli as well, to be fair, ever since taking that 3rd position, he has been impervious. He's pulled away very nicely from Dorneden behind. Danny Sharanku still trying to hold on to this P10. Is very... a bit of contact there from Santos as well. I was going to say it's a little bit of a close shave, lap upon lap, as the two continually go into contact. But I'll say this much, for Sharanku, it's a spirited defence.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and he really wants his first point. He's been qualified for every single race of the season, but he hasn't scored the point yet. He's very unlucky in the races, but also doesn't quite have the same racing experience, I think, as a lot of the drivers that he's up against here in this grid.
Not at the top level, anyway. He's actually a karting coach, if I remember correctly. So he certainly knows how to drive. It's just a case of translating that into points now. Speaking of points, Jack Keithley wants more of those, definitely. As things stand, he makes his way into the top 5. But I think ideally he'd want to get past Dorneden just to pick up an extra couple.
Yes, and we don't know how the season will progress, because we're always swapping the cars. And maybe drivers like Tocacelli or Dorneden are becoming even faster once the newer cars are being introduced. So we're talking a lot about Keithley, Kunze, Revanak as contenders, but maybe one of these guys can also get a chance of actually qualifying in the top 5. Keithley looking a little bit there. Dorniden often a little bit away from the apexes, but he gets a nice exit.
To be fair, if there's anyone who I trust under braking, it would be Alex Dorniden. Of course, if you're not aware, as the old adage goes, he can gain 7/10 under braking. His skills on that particular pedal are just that good. There's a little bit of a loose moment from Manuel Zengaffinen. And let's talk about the Zengaffinen brothers, Rob, because they've lost out a lot in comparison to their starting positions, but once again showing, at least in Manuel's case, he's keeping pace with these guys. He might not necessarily be looking to attack, but for experience, this is very, very good stuff for the Swiss brothers.
Yes, and the 6th place here in this race also keeps him within a shot of making it to the final. He is in the top 10 of the championship standings, despite only doing 1 race. And he will pick up a lot of vital points once again in this race. But it looked like he has set up his car to be very low, because he's bottoming out a bit when he goes onto this big curb on the exit of the next corner here.
Go ahead of Yarshall, Vierik and Xanatos in proceeding. So he's already gaining 3 positions as is. But now we're nearing the halfway point of the season, Rob. It doesn't necessarily become a case of, oh, well, what position are you in the championship? It becomes a case of, well, how close are you points-wise to P5? And I think that's what Zengaffinen might start to struggle with. Unless, of course, we see a massive, podium upturn in form when we go into the second half of the season. He needs to start finishing ahead of his competitors and not just with them.
Yes, that's true, but I think they have really impressed me so far in a few races they have done. So I think it's very realistic that they will play a big role once it goes into the very serious part of this championship. Talking about this race, it's calmed down a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, we had that, with the exception of maybe Shiranku and Santos, who are still close to each other, and Buron and Shihan still battling away outside of the points. Oh, and that's Shihan really missing the exit at the Schullerest. That should allow Buron through. A hit on the outside wall to boot as well. Buron back through into P13. I think the real flashpoint there was Tocacelli going through on Dorniden, and since then he's really started to fly away as Shihan looking for an alternative way through the final corner. Buron just about holding his position, all for pride at this point, and for Jaka Sisoyo there in the final position, a learning experience. He's a rookie here, and Shihan there diving to the outside trying to get past Buron. A dynamic attempt from the Turkish driver, not going to come off.
Oh, nice slide there over the curve.
Yeah. But for Sisoyo, it's a learning experience at least.
The only true debutant in this race. He has not driven a race in any of the seasons of the Mercedes AMG Motorsport eRacing competition. It shows that you can make it as well if you try to qualify, if you can drive this car like Sisoyo does, all the way sideways here.
Tell you what, he's certainly running in the 90s with those sorts of drifts. You can see them in Initial D. They're that good. Back up to the front then. It's still oh so close, Rob, but I don't want to call it a procession, but I'm certainly getting the impression from a lot of these drivers that they just don't want to risk it when they are scoring good points.
Yeah, that's true, and I think especially Keithley really wants to pick up some points. Shihan, meanwhile, goes past Buron at the back of the field.
Still having a go, aren't they? And actually, this is crucial because, like I say, these points guarantee that he moves up into the top 5 of the championship. From there, he can at least set up defences and try and hold off people trying to overtake him, as opposed to continually trying to catch him.
Yes, and we'll see 2 more laps now.
Oh, Santos!
Santos, what happened to him?
Santos in P10. He's gone past Shiranku, finally. That move has been coming for a few laps. And for Danny Shiranku, he's now got maybe 1 or 2 laps to try and rescue the point he's so desperately trying to gain. He goes on the outside of turn 2. Not really the place you want to try and overtake. And Santos holds for now. This could be a crucial point for the German.
Shiranku was holding on for so long. He's looking for the inside here. I think he's just trying to scare Santos into taking a different line. Santos too experienced for that. Keeps the position, and Shiranku almost loses it here over the curb.
might we have another lap actually after this one? Because I'm thinking Rebenak might have crossed the line. It's going to be close, isn't it?
That could be close, yeah.
But even then, you can see how much he's cruising. He went so deep into that corner, but he's got a 4-second gap to play with.
For him, it doesn't really matter if there's another lap, unless he calculated very, very risky on the fuel. What a dominant performance, and what a way to take his first win.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has been a long time coming, but after his first pole position, you kind of got the impression of what was coming next. He comes round the final corner now. It's been 1.5 seasons in the making. The man with the most podiums in the Mercedes AMG eRacing competition takes his first win. Kevin Siggy Rebenak at the Norris Ring. An absolutely outstanding performance from the Austro-Slovenian. Dikarama Malana picks up his second podium of the season. With with Toccacelli, sorry. Is it Danny Toccacelli? I'm getting completely mixed up now. Davide Toccacelli, there we go. He picks up his first podium of the season with Alex Dorneyson, again, not picking up podium, but picking up good points in 4th. Heathley picks up P5 with the Zengaffinen brothers 6 and 7. Manuel followed by Julian. Jaroslav Honzik picks up decent points in P8. Julian Kunze, our championship leader, with a nightmare after contact at P9, contact at the final corner P9. Andre Santos picking up the final point, but Rob, with the fastest lap of the race as well, Kevin Siggy Rebenak takes the lead of the championship.
Congratulations to Kevin, great performance. He does it like Bernd Schneider in the same car back in '95. He does it in 2018 and he takes the win, his first win, and I think he's one of the contenders now for the championship title with this momentum that he picks up here.
Well, I mean, he's taken the lead of the championship, Rob. To me, that says that he's in with a chance of winning it. For Kunze, a real shame he loses points. He doesn't just lose first to actually let's do the maths quickly. Yeah, he doesn't just lose first to Rebenak. He loses second to Maulana as well, and the Indonesian once again proving he's certainly here to stay.
Yes, Andika Rama Maulana, we didn't know him before the season started, and he could be the first driver from Asia to make it to the LAN final at Hockenheim, where the best 5 drivers of this competition and the winner of the museum competition will compete against the real DTM drivers. For a prize as well, we haven't talked about that in a while actually. The 3 best drivers at the final, they will drive a real Mercedes AMG sports car in real life with professional coaching. Tim Heinemann, winner from last year, he's actually driving a GT4 car this year. So yeah, definitely brings them one step closer to real motorsports. And it looks like we can count on Rebenak and Maulana when it comes to the final by now, because they've been picking up points and points and points round after round.
And the fight for that prize continues in 2 different ways over the next 3 weeks. First of all, keep an eye on the Mercedes-Benz social media feeds for information on the museum event being held at the Mercedes Museum live in Stuttgart. Maybe you will have a chance to qualify that way. Of course, you'll have to try and beat double champion Tim Heinemann as well. It's sure to be a very interesting event on that side of things. And then in 3 weeks' time, we are back to league play. We're heading into the millennium. It's 2003 with the Mercedes CLK, Rob. And we're heading to Zandvoort, a very different track indeed to the Norris Ring. Fast and flowing. But one similarity it does have, it's very difficult to overtake. So perhaps qualifying will be a mightily important part of that evening as well.
Yes, you can, if you follow the link to Race Room in the description on Facebook or on YouTube, you can join the competition for free. You can try to qualify for Zandvoort, or you can at least have a little go in these cars. They're very fun to drive, the 2003 cars, a lot more downforce than the 95 cars that we just saw. And look at the tracks that are coming up in the season. Lots of different, also some very difficult circuits, like Brands Hatch.
My home circuit, that.
Then Monza, all about high speed, of course. The Nürburgring and Red Bull Ring for the final round of the online season, before we head to Hockenheim once again for the LAN final.
Oh, there is so much to look forward to as we head into the second part of the season. And whether you're choosing to take part as a competitor, or whether you're going to be joining us here on the broadcast here again as a viewer, we certainly hope that you do join us, because there's plenty to look forward to. Time to wrap things up then. Thank you all very much for joining us here at Virtual Norris Ring. He's been Robert Wiesenmuller. I've been James Kirk. And from all of us here at the Mercedes AMG eRacing competition, it is a very warm goodbye.